Bună ziua! Vă rog să-mi permiteți să împac prezentarea în limba engleză ca un gest de curtoazie pentru toți colegii noștri nevorbitori de limba română. Și vreau să-i mulțumesc și doamnei Marina pentru prezentarea făcută. Okay, so my name is Mircea Puiu. I am working for what you are used to know as Team Achela, and nowadays probably if I'm saying something wrong, my boss here will kick my ass a little bit. We are now known as Achela, a Stefanini company. Is that right? Yeah? Okay, thanks. And I'm going to share with you some real-life information concerning Scrum, applying Scrum. And as you are all here, or most of you, either IT developers or executives in the area or testers. And you know very well that our work is dealing with a lot of uncertainty. And that kind of uncertainty has different reasons. But it is there, and we cannot plan it away or use to vanish away. And what I'm going to share with you today is the way we faced, understood, and planned for this kind of uncertainty. Then I'll walk with you the path I walked with my team. I'll make a parenthesis here. I am working for a distributed team over Europe. I know many of you will say Scrum will fit better for collocated teams, but life is life, so we have to deal with that. And then I'll walk you what Marina said about the definition of done, and I will stress what we learn about the fact that finished does not always mean complete. Actually, there is no moment in life where this could happen. And last but not least, we'll be observing the changes so that we'll be able to adapt. Well, whenever trying to manage a project, we used to say, and this is a traditional planning, and as Peter Drucker, the father of modern management, used to say, we have to frame things in a new way. Because, you know, what is happening is like you have to make some decision, especially the executives. And when making decisions, you are thinking basically of the three main areas of mentioning any theory of business, where you deal actually with assumptions. And in the first part, you deal with assumptions concerning the organization, the company, and the environment in which that company is performing. That would mean the society, the economics, the market, the targets, the people inside. In the second part, you will deal with the mission of your organization and the assumption concerning the mission of your organization. And in the last, about the core competencies that you need to reach your mission. And there you also have assumptions. And the problem is that those assumptions must fit reality, then they must fit each other, and as in any theory, it must be always tested. Because, you know, we deal with a lot of uncertainty. And what do you do as executive when you have something like that? Probably you rely on numbers, on making assumptions about what would happen. And this is based on probabilities. But I'm asking you, what happens if no probabilities are there? Because based on those probabilities, you executives are making commitments for resource so actually you commit resources, even money or time, and you also commit people resources. And if you do not have that, what is the worst case scenario? You will not commit that. Well, the idea is, as Peter Drucker said, instead of asking what is most likely to happen, this is a traditional approach, what if we try to look in the past on what happened and ask the question, what has already happened that will create the future? Are we able to see any patterns or behaviors that might make us understand how the future will look like, I mean the future of the business? And this is what we are making in Scrum from Inspect and Adapt, a major theme. Okay, let me briefly introduce you to what we are doing there. We are working, as I said, I'm a Scrum Master of a team dispersed over Europe. And the company we are developing for was intending to introduce agile methodologies, namely Scrum in our case. And as we were already a bunch of people knowing the Scrum principles and some of us having a little bit of experience in that, they decided to make a pilot team for the company, and after that, if the results prove to be okay, they should spread Agile throughout the organization. And well, what can I say? Actually, we were in that team, all those guys and girls were knowing the basic principles. We also knew each other, so we knew what we were capable to do. But still, we are a little bit afraid of what's about to come, because actually, you know, there were some questions in front of us. Would it be enough just to apply Scrum by the book? Our colleague here, Ralph, probably will tell you a lot about books. Would it be easy for us to switch from a mindset on waterfall, because this was reality, and it is still reality, to where, from those times where actually everything was very, let's say, or at least wanted to be very clearly defined from the very beginning, where you have some documentation, you have the initiation phase, the analysis, the conception, then you make some architecture, and then you design and go to proper implementation, testing, and so on. And this, having the documentation from the beginning, and then going step by step, stepwise, up to the end of the project. And now, actually, we're reverting to something that is iterative and always subject to change, because of this, many agile-based projects may fail very, very easily. Okay, so they decided at the company level that probably, because we were a little bit experienced, just to run 4 or 5 sprints only in that team, and after that, if the things are going well, then to spread the Agile through the entire company. And as you can see in the first sprint, actually, well, you can see there a sort of transition, that a transition process. It was nothing going very smoothly, but this is normally because we are changing our way of life, and that was foreseen. And that is why our product owner was wise enough not to bring us all the new features wanted by the customers, but just for a proper beginning, brought to us, to our attention, things from the past that were not done, feature not yet implemented, or some bad approaches like quick and dirty. There are a lot of quick and dirties in our work, you know very well. And of course bugs that had to be removed. And with the time passing, with the sprints passing, also the new features were brought to our attention. But in the very first sprint, we got only, let's say, easy work so that we can focus on implementing the Scrum methodology. And you can see there, it was not smooth as, let me just shortly describe what is, which button is that? Okay, so it's not smoothly as it was already mentioned here. You have those bars showing the work remaining. This is very important because if you want to go agile, you have to change your way of thinking. In the waterfall approaches, executives especially were focused on, hey, what have we done and what was good or not. Okay, I'm not saying that now we have to forget that what we have done, but the problem is, or more important is, what we have in front of us still to be done, and that is why it is called a burn down chart. With orange color here is the work planned at the beginning of the sprint, and after that with blue there is work every day still to be done in front of us. And you can see here, during the sprint, this is not a rule, but it happens, work may come in and may go out. But this shouldn't be a rule. This should be by accident. Okay, because we had enough, let's say, people with some experience in applying Scrum, and because we have management dealing very well with changes, and because when you speak of changes is, you have to manage changes like any other project. We did it in a way so that our behavior became very stable. I'm not saying a good behavior, but it was stable, and you'll see this was very important. Because in the all the first 4 sprints showed me some patterns. It is what I intended to do when I invoked Peter Drucker's theory. I took some of my time and analyzed the results of the sprints. And I was able to see that independent of the planning here, either when we really did good planning or even bad planning, whatever was following, it was actually 2 elements. First, an early warning every time that some delays are accumulating, so just from the very beginning. And the second, always in the second part of each sprint, you can see the same shape of the burn down. So actually, it was not something related to the planning itself. So I asked myself, what can it be? Probably it is something that was not taken into consideration when planning. And this thing that was not taken into consideration when planning was exactly the uncertainty. This thought of uncertainty brought to my mind the idea of the cone of uncertainty. This kind of representation is widely used for project management, and not only in the software area, in any area that is dealing with something that we produce. And actually, it's based on the fact that having decisions, having research, and having decisions that would remove the sources for inconsistency in a project, you will go in the very narrow part of the cone where we should be. When everything is not well designed, or not well designed, let's say not very well known from the beginning, you are in this part of the cone. And actually what you see here, it's not to be understood, we are here and now time is here. It's like we say in Scrum, it's the time in front of us. So it doesn't mean that this representation that you are now here, you design something and you have to go here. On this cone, you can go forth forwards and backwards, depending on what is happening. And look what happened to us, because our project was, let's say, already reaching its maturity. But for some reasons, and I'm very sure this happens also in your companies or your projects, for some reasons changes are decided, and not by us, the programmers, and they decided to make major changes in the database, in the business layer, in the business objects layer, even in the graphic user interface layer. And that brought us actually back in the cone of uncertainty here, where actually the initial requirements were no longer met. And some people started to program something and not documenting what they're doing, because they were asked to, they were not in our team, but it was a cross-team work, and they said, yes, we have to deliver that, we have no time for documenting. Let me tell you a bad news. Being agile is not leaving out the documentation. In the waterfall scenario, yes, you have or you should have all the documentation from the beginning. Once you have it, then you start the process. Now the documentation is still there, but it's like a living being. We are updating the documentation on the way. We are iterating, we are making refactoring or whatever we are doing. We have also to update the documentation so that at the end of any sprint, any new feature, any repaired feature, any whatever we did there is very well documented and spread through the company. So actually we were brought back, we were brought back here in this area where our level of uncertainty was raising from 1.5 to 2. So the idea is, what was going wrong? Where was that uncertainty coming from? Yes, it was very clear for a person from outside and looking to our product backlog, looking to the stories, user stories in the product backlog, that actually they were not well written. Because when we usually speak of user stories, we used to use an acronym for that. It's the INVEST acronym. I stands for independent, N for negotiable, V for valuable, E estimable, S some of us say small, but I like to say size appropriate, and testable. Let's take them one by one. What would mean independent? Independent means that whatever a user, okay, Marina explained to us what a user story would be. But they should be independent because you should not write something that you want to do so that by asking that, you bring in a lot of other user stories. They should be negotiable. Just remember, a user story is not a contract. The user story is just a starting point. And it's a point where you express what you want, given a set of acceptance criteria, and then you have to negotiate with people, with us, people implementing your features, what it is to be implemented there. Valuable, yes, because actually, whenever you say the customer wants this, it's not okay, it is about what the customer wants, but you should also have to think when you write a user story if that, what it is written there, has any value to the client because, or the customer. And here a small parenthesis, that feature should bring value to the customer and not to you as a programmer. If you cannot see any value in that, then simply remove that. It's not worth to do it. Then should be estimable. Well, if you put everything in that user story, probably it's not a user story, it's what is called an epic. That is a collection of user stories. And instead of that, you should break down that epic into smaller user stories, because this comes to size appropriate. Not being size appropriate, so having large user stories are very, very hard to manage. Small chunks of work are more manageable and more trackable. And last but not least, should be testable. Because if you specify something that you want, me as a whatever position there, I would like to have, and say that is all, and then, okay, we are negotiating what's inside. Just think of what happens at the end of the day, okay, at the end of the sprint actually, when the product owner comes and say, and decide if the job was done or not. And now, probably you have your own perspective, you say, yes, I did what you asked for me. He has definitely another perspective, it happens like that, and say, no, 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 I wanted to say something else and it should be brought here. So actually you are not, do not have very clear defined the definition of done. But actually what you are missing there are the acceptance criteria. So that if you specify from the beginning acceptance criteria is very simple, then you make an implementation, and after that it is the work done if what you wanted there respects some criteria. Good. So actually what we were facing there, it was not an effort estimation issue. It was very difficult to estimate the effort if you do not define exactly what you want. But it was not an effort issue. It was a scoping issue, and I'll tell you immediately what that scoping issue is. And most of the time a risk management issue. Let me make again a parallel between the waterfall scenario and the agile scenario. In the waterfall scenario, think of this triangle where you have fixed time, fixed resources, and fixed set of functionalities to deliver. And that is that. What is the difference? What do we have in, because we still have this triangle in Agile. But now we have fixed time, we have fixed resources, but the set of functionalities is no longer fixed. It's negotiable. And I heard a question raised to Marina by one of you here. What would happen if you have fixed price projects? Well, if you decide in your company to spread Agile, please don't do it only at the low level of development. You have to spread it everywhere. And probably you'll have to think to spread it to the sales department too. Yes, you have to bring the customer in the loop. And you'll say, are there solutions to that? Well, if they found them, and they found it in the States, so we have to believe them, we try to approach them, and it seems it works. There are two principles they're using there. They're called pay for nothing and change for the same money. What is that? You should change, so make your contracts agile, or your contracting agile, so that pay for nothing is a clause in the contract where you say, if you decide I'm not happy with what you are doing there, let's cut the contract, but you are still paying 30% or whatever you decide there, it's 30% usually of the remaining effort, financial effort. And the most important is change for the same money. What does it mean? And you'll see this is agile. You are working on a set of functionalities, and at a point you may be in the situation that you say, well, for some reasons we cannot, we do this, this and this, but we cannot do this kind of functionality or small set of functionalities. And then you decide, in the same amount of money they are paying you, instead of doing that, let's do something else. So it's always a matter of negotiation. So there are solutions to that. Good. Yes, please.
It's also a matter of risk.
Yes, the risk is also, and I'll speak about risk in the next slides, because people sometimes make, I'll try to be agile also in this presentation and change on the fly the presentation. I have no problem with that, so please feel free to ask me whatever. Many people make confusion between risk and uncertainty, and they are not the same. Okay, let's talk now about that, but I will come back in later slides. Frank Heinemann Knight, the co-founder of Chicago School, was the one who actually described very well this kind of difference between risk and uncertainty. In risk, you have an unknown outcome. Okay, but it is unknown, but in a quantifiable form. What does this mean? The underlying distribution of this unknown outcome is known. So you do not know the outcome, but you know the distribution. And this would mean some numbers. And based on some numbers, you make your assumptions based on the future, and you make your plans. What it is with uncertainty? Uncertainty is also unknown future, unknown outcome, but also unknown shape of the distribution. So actually, you cannot get rid of uncertainty by putting them to risk and say, okay, now we have the means to manage risk. No, you simply cannot get rid of them. So you have to find ways to manage. Okay, the risk is one thing, but to manage the uncertainty. For the risk, let's say it's easy to manage. What do you do when you manage risk? First, you identify your threats. Then you identify your vulnerabilities. Then you make a sort of model, starting with a linear one. You have to check every time it fits reality, it's not just a representation on something. And probably based on that, and it happened also to me, I'll speak about it and you'll see it in the next slides, you may need to come back to your initial planning and change it. And here is another problem. People in waterfall scenario are used to work with plans. Plans are nothing. It's planning what counts. And planning within an agile approach is updating the plans every day. And this is also because it was another question raised here earlier about what could be that agile could fail. Yes, it's about not switching your mind set on a waterfall and you just say, yes, we are agile. No, you're not, if you do not change your mind. So, now that we say, okay, we agree, we have in front of us uncertainty. We face it. Now, what should we do with that? Well, we have to understand it, that it is, and after that, we have to, and I just told you, we must understand that we cannot get rid of them. They are not risks. And probably you'll have to go for a balance between the attempts to reduce the uncertainty, because actually by reducing the uncertainty, if you remember the cone of uncertainty, you would go where you want to be in the narrow part of the cone and not in the wide part. But also, it is uncertainty that you cannot get rid of it. So what to do if you cannot get rid of it? So you have to plan for it. And you'll ask me what to do for that. Well, use a wider range estimate to reflect the greater uncertainty. It was said here that people are using hours to estimate something, but in the Agile we are using story points. Let me tell you something. You can call them also hours, but keep in mind maybe it's not a good parallel, but let me try it. It's like when you say this, most of us say this thing to do will take me 1 day, and then if someone asks you, why does this thing take you 1 day? Well, actually I have to look a little bit in the internet for I don't know what API I forgot. This will take some half an hour, and then probably I'll have to write some code for some 2 hours. And then I have to wait for I don't know what call for the customer level, whatever, and that will take the whole day. Sorry, that's not the time it takes to do that thing. The time to do that thing would be those half an hour that you took for your research and 2 hours for coding, and let's put some hour for reviewing whatever is there. And that is the time that is needed for that task to be done. And this will be the hours. But the story points will be the other hours, one of example. What you need for that to be ready. Normally when because now we are in the position of talking of story points, this is also important, and you may ask, okay, this is something abstract. How do you deal with that? Because based on the story points, you have to compute the velocity. Did you speak about velocity? No, you didn't mention the velocity. Okay. The velocity of your team. Very shortly, the velocity is amount of story points or hours, if you want, that your team will bring during a sprint. Very shortly. And you say, okay, let's compare two teams based on the speed. Wrong. Wrong. Because the story points are abstract. And when you have to, it's like, probably you have already heard about poker planning. This is like, okay, let's estimate how much time we need for this feature. And then you'll say, I need 3 hours, that 5 hours, it's like having the cards, or 8 hours, whatever. And then you have to see if they are, the estimations very close to each other, then okay, take the average and that is that. But what happens if one say 2 hours and the other say 8 hours? So you have to go for a negotiation and ask, hey guy, you say you are solving it in 2 hours, why do you say that? And give some reasons, and ask then the other guy, why do you say to take 8 hours? He will also have some reasons, assuming he is a responsible person, not just saying 8 hours just for fun. And after that, if each of the others understand what each of the other is saying, then you can renegotiate and you redo this poker planning until you reach a consensus. Good. So coming back to the story points. Story points is like that. They used to say, let's use Fibonacci string. Okay, use whatever you want. You can put it a linear string. So it doesn't matter, let's take Fibonacci. And you say, how do you say now this, the effort that I assess for this work to do would be 8. Good, then you have to think of something in the past that you have done with your team, and take your, if your, let's say, range is from 0 to 100, take the middle and think of that activity you had in the past, that is the middle. And then every time come back to that experience. And whenever you have a new thing to implement, think, okay, as compared to that one, where should I be on the scale? In front or after that medium? And then you have that kind of story points. But this is different from team to team, so it makes no sense to compare teams' velocities based on that. They have different meanings of that. Compare teams by how much functionalities they deliver. This is another thing. Good. So use a wider range estimate to reflect the greater uncertainty, because if you do not know everything from the beginning, then probably you'll have to keep in mind that you will have some time to do some research at least. Keep room for unplanned incoming work. As you could see, even in my former sprints, there were those orange bars for incoming work. And it's a responsibility of the product owner to see if too much work is coming in. He should take out some work, because otherwise you will not get to an end. And again, this should not be the rule. You should not be exposed to that kind of things. Incoming, outgoing work is an exception, or should be. Break the work down in smaller units. So if you feel you have an epic there, break it down into really user stories. And this already happened. Now we are still in this phase, and maybe this phase will never come to an end. Update the completion criteria based on better written user stories, because you have to come back to your stakeholders and to your customers and discuss again and again about the definition of done, because this is changing in time. And this is still an ongoing process, and you will see in the next slides how we dealt with that. And last but not least, you have to adopt a deliberative or communicative approach. Communication is very important. People are very afraid when they have to share something. I don't know why. Ask yourselves why. But I managed to make the people communicate to the other because I started with that. And the sprints were not going well from the beginning. So actually it was, let's say, my work as a Scrum Master. But I was sharing to all the team and to the management, even to some clients, what was happening. And more important, what I'm going to do to fix the things. So I was not hiding anything. It's not about hiding something. It's about making visible your efforts. And if make the sprint execution visible to the manager is a must, you have to do that. Well, at the very moment, making the sprint execution visible to the customer, at least in my case, it's a nice to have. I'm still fighting for making it a must. Probably it will come. So, this is what we were facing, and we started to plan for uncertainty. You will see there I put some dots because the client didn't agree to put his name and the activities there, but that's not very important. Just keep the idea, and this is real data. So we started to plan for knowledge transfer throughout the team, gaining skill and risk analysis. Because you see, those activities normally are performed or are assumed to be performed. You are doing that when you are trying to implement something. But if you do not explicitly plan for them, believe me, it doesn't happen because you'll say when estimating the effort hours, yes, it will take me 3 hours. And actually it will take you maybe 2 days because you do not have all the, or the knowledge uniformly present in your team. So you have to spread the knowledge from one to each other. You do not have the skills. Maybe you have newcomers and they do not have the skills. Okay, they are super programmers, but they have to understand the application itself. And if they are new, they know how to program. But if they do not know what to program, they simply lose time. And also make every time a risk analysis. This is very worth to do it. So actually what we did, we start to explicitly plan for that. So if you see here, an SBT, so let's, another short story. When you say, we are working with Team Foundation Server, probably some of you were working with something. TFS? Okay. So there you have PBIs, that stands for Product Backlog Items, and this is the user story actually. And under it, you have to break down into work to do. This will be SBTs or sprint backlog tasks. So instead of saying the story is the PBI, I want to implement whatever, and then in the SBT simply say, yes, program for the whatever. First, why don't you expressly plan for knowledge transfer concerning the template? Stay with your team and let's see if all of us know what that means. And some guys will be knowing that, some guys not. So you have to spread the information among the team and put that as a separate SBT with an outcome of that, a document. So you see, documents are alive and are being created during the process. Then gaining skills. Okay, don't start, yes, I am happy, I have 2 programmers, I know very well the application, let's start doing it. No. Take 2 hours or 3 hours or maybe a whole day. It will save your time in the future and teach the others how to use, for example, that interface they have to program for. And then make the risk analysis because actually many of you have different ideas how to implement things. But by doing something you know very well, we are repairing something, we fix a bug and we bring in 20 bugs. Good. So just think which implementation, which idea is better fitting the reality of your project. And this kind of risk analysis is a very good idea to be performed because it's very simple. You first have to identify the threats. There are 2 things. And your vulnerabilities. And if you plan based on that, then you actually plan for uncertainty. And guess what? In Sprint 5, just after planning, the early warning vanished. The vulnerable warning. Yes, of course, because actually what was happening, we are starting, let's do this. And after that, wow, I thought I was knowing how to do that. And we start to scratch in the internet or whatever, and and we lose time, and instead of staying on the line, we are going like that because we are losing time and we have to report, we still have work in front of us. The implementation was done yet. But now, no, because we are doing step by step, all the activities there, and we stand on the line. Now we had to wait until the end of the sprint to see, okay, we get rid of the early warning, but do we still have that kind of shape that bring us not delivered deliverables at the end of the sprint? Sorry? Question?
What is the income? I don't understand what is the orange stuff.
Orange is the work that is coming into the sprint, work to be done. Normally in Agile, you say at the beginning of a sprint, you have a sprint planning meeting where you say, we have to do this. Let me put a few words about this. The big boss comes to you and say, we have to do, and it has in the product backlog, that kind of work, PBIs. Okay, now you know from your previous sprints an estimation of your velocity. So let's don't talk about hours or story points. How much work you can do or you are supposed to do in that sprint. And then you say, okay, looking that because each PBI has story point value written there, then you say, okay, my team has, I don't know, 200 story points. And then we take this, all the PBIs are ordered based on, do you know what is return of investment? Is the business value over the effort, the story points in our case. And you order your PBIs, and then you have them in the backlog. And then you take this, and while you are taking PBIs from the backlog, you are adding the story points, and until you reach your velocity or your presumed velocity, and say, okay, stop here. But this doesn't stop here because you might not even be able to do what you said there. And then when you plan the sprint with your team and you are breaking down your PBIs into tasks, then you speak of real hours and you say, okay, whatever you are saying there with the story points, we are physically here for 8 hours or whatever you are there, but you cannot put 25 hours in a day, yes? So then, okay, you have to do this, and maybe you cut, or maybe you still have room for something, and then you can take one or more PBIs. So that is what it is with Orange. The Orange is the planned work. And during the sprint, it may happen that, okay, they will say, yes, you're Agile, but the customer is pressing us with something that they want. It's the responsibility of the product owner to say, okay, guys, let's do this also. Do we have time for that? And discussing with the Scrum Master and the team. If yes, yes.
You should not disclose something from the large orange first bar when you put something inside the sprint, because otherwise you put pressure on your team.
Yes, this is why if you see you are not able to, but this does not happen in the very moment. Yes, in this we here not. Yes. This didn't happen here because we planned for that kind of uncertainty, and we still have time available for that. For example, in my before our last sprint, we had some very large work coming in, and when you have large work coming out, you will see that below the axis. No, it's for one sprint. You have for one iteration, and at the product owner, you have the release burn down chart. There you have, based on your velocities of your team or teams, and you have to deliver something, you know. So you have what to do, but it's the same about different scales. What I'm speaking here is for the team for one sprint. So at the very beginning, this is what we planned together. And we commit. What does mean commit? We say, yes, we are doing this kind of work. And after that, with blue, is the work still having to do. So when I'm in day 3, I do not care about what was in the past. I'm interested only if I'm here until the end of the sprint, I have to do this work. This little orange is... no, not necessarily. It can be whatever, a bug or whatever. Here it happens if, let me remember, in sprint 5, the client came to us and say, guys, you did that perfectly because we are keeping the client in the loop, and say, yes, but we didn't mention that we like this, I don't know, let's say, I'm not allowed to speak about that, but let's put it like that. The client wants a control to be red instead of green. And then we say, okay, let's do it also. It doesn't take too much, so let's put it in this. But this shouldn't be a rule. During a sprint, no one should interfere. But by accident or by exception, this can come, yes?
And the scope.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
answer is only for this iteration, so it was split in.
Yes.
The scope it was split
Yes.
in more iterations and which could be parallelized.
No, no, again, so you have, you know, in all these tools coming either for Microsoft, no, let me explain you. The product, I think we have to come to some basic items. Product backlog is think it of a list of to-dos, not how to do, to-dos. And this is for, let's say, for the entire, for all the iteration you might have in mind. So it's for until the release, what you have to do. It is okay, good. And let's, for the sake of simplicity, let's say we have only one team. Doesn't matter if you are good. So now we decide, because we are not in waterfall scenario, we know exactly what to do and we know what to plan exactly on days. We say, let's do what we can. And we have them prioritized. Not everything is of the same importance. Yes? So all the to-dos are listed like that. On the top of the list are the most important, and then the less important. Good, the least important, sorry. And then you can now, you know that in one sprint, let's say in our case is 2 weeks. With the availability of our team, we know that we make work measured as 200 points, whatever they can mean. 200 points mean a definite chunk of activities, of functionalities to be implemented. And for that we start to get the work. This is the work from the beginning. And we take and deliver step by step until we exhaust the list.
At the beginning of the project, the customer will ask you how long it will take, when you will deliver me the project. With Agile methodology, could you answer to this question?
Remember the triangle. What do you have in the corner of the triangle?
You said it is...
Time, fixed. Costs, resources,
Yeah.
fixed. And functionalities, in waterfall is fixed.
Yeah.
Here is
Not
fixed
really.
no longer. Should be. Here is no longer fixed.
Yes, but at the beginning, the customers will come to the development team
Yeah.
and will ask something to be developed. Okay. So at the beginning, you should do roughly planning and to answer him to the simple question, when you will receive the delivery.
Yes, and you'll say 1 year or whatever you want. For that year, what you negotiate today.
Okay.
And you have 1 year, and you have a set, again, if in this approach, you have to do also agile contracting. Because if you try to do waterfall with your, at the negotiation level of your company with the customer and then just bring it here, probably not work. They have to be informed and also keep the client in the business.
Okay.
And make him understand that, okay, we'll deliver, you have to define the user stories. This is very important to make them invest. Because if you say, yes, I would like to have a website to show I don't know what, this is not well designed, because we are in the position that you say everyone has his own perspective. You are the client, I'm the implementer. And you say you want this website, but you do not specify exactly what there should be. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Of course.
Me, I'm not asking you exactly what you want, but I think I know what you want. And at the end of the whatever day will be, you will think that you receive something. I will be very sure that I'm delivering what you want, and we'll probably see that you want more or not even what I was delivering there, and I'm very sure it is. So it is a mistake from the beginning.
So at the beginning you will create some prototypes or something like that?
You can make also prototypes,
We'll
mock-ups
do-
or whatever to functional models or call it whatever. Let's say you do not have the functionality embedded for a website, but you can put there some controls and say, hey, my client, would you like this, this, and this to have, not how it is done, and
I'm asking all of this because, as you already seen, we are working in waterfall based on CMMI
Yep.
model.
Yep.
And when I saw previous slide with your planning, actually there, no, this one. Actually here you have all necessary processes that most of them that should be covered in a CMMI model. There is
yes, but
management,
the difference is
requirements,
Yes.
development,
In the,
and management, and so on.
yes, in the waterfall model.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
We'll talk in the...
In the waterfall model, you know everything from, or you think you know everything, or you set everything from the beginning. The power of this model is that you do not know from the beginning what you are doing, or how you are doing what we are doing. And here, sprint by sprint, you define, you plan what you are doing.
Okay.
It's rolling.
Okay. Thank you. We'll continue doing the
We can discuss about that in our breaks. Okay.
Thank you.
So let me make it now a little bit quicker. Good. So that was right after the beginning. There were no early warning, and guess what? At the end of the sprint, it was almost a perfect sprint execution. With what you see here, because of this new incoming works that shouldn't be, but it happens. That is why we have a small here fluctuation, but I wouldn't say this is a fluctuation. This is almost perfect. And this is not fake, believe me. So, we came to what we are discussing. Finish does not mean complete. Don't tell me that you have a software project and say it's done. No, it's not. I have never seen that. And the problem is, instead of deliver not only fast, because then we'll say the customer is not interested in completed activities on whatever chart you have, and you may have Gantt, and with this is a topic of another discussion. Gantt is not even fitting the Scrum model, because Gantt is related to activities having intercorrelations between them, and in Scrum we do make independent user stories. But okay, you can use them for the sake of for a while. I also was, let's say, forced to use them for a while until I told them, hey guys, you are wasting my time, we are not using that. Yes, you're right, okay, so get rid of that. The customer is interested in delivered functionality. So actually they want to see their return of investment more seldom. And not necessarily that they have all, they have maybe less of what they asked, but with higher quality. This is what they are interested. You can say my customer is not like that. Probably I'm just here. I'm not making here theory. My colleagues here will make theory. I'm just presenting you real life with what happened to us. We are doing this, and it happened to us. Maybe we are lucky and the other not. Also possible. Good. So actually, what we had in the product backlog, we had a set of, and now maybe I can get some of your answers. We had a bunch of. We have a bunch of user stories, because the guys were not at the higher level, not used to being agile, in the sense we are talking here. And they are putting some titles for the stories, whatever, just to be a title there. And it proved to be that a placeholder for whatever they want to be there. And even if they don't want, come later after 2 days and complete some things there. This was a total mess. And this kind of uncertainty will add to the uncertainty we are talking before. So I fought to make them put their wishes on what I used to call an epic polar map. So put your wishes on a map and make sectors so that you define areas of activities or what you are doing there. And if you do not feel that that breakdown is enough, go to the next level and break down until everything is as small unit as possible, so that it can be implemented, managed, and tracked better than it was before. And in waterfall scenario, somehow you have to know this from the beginning. Here we are not interested in that. We just go. Let's go and do it. And we have then to do, okay, we'll not do that. We'll do only this part. But what we deliver very fast. So instead, what do you do in waterfall? You get the plan, and then, hey, customer, come at the end of the year, whatever it is. Okay, validate whatever, and you have exactly, I agree with you. But after 1 year, they will come and say, give me what I paid for. Here in Agile approach, the customer comes, I'm not saying every day, every sprint, and is getting deliverables. And it's even better because it might be, and it happens to us, that the project pays itself, even when the project is not at the end. Because the customer is not interested in your activities that to say, yes, I did that, that, and that. No, he's interested in delivered functionalities and with quality. He's not interested in having 20 functionalities but working the Romanian way. It works. No. They wanted, okay, instead of 20 functionalities, let's have it 10, but they work perfect. And that perfect would be the definition of done. Then, actually, it is the discussion. If we cannot do something, should we make larger sprints? No, because actually making larger sprints will just make you on one hand, the stakeholders will not see their investment returned. It will take much longer time to see something is coming out. And also, we are not getting the feedback from them. And to stay in our uncertainties. While being in this kind of agile approach, we keep the customer in the loop, the stakeholders in the loop, and we get feedback. And here what it is, this is very important. I'm sorry I do not have the time to stress that, but I'll do it anyway. We managed to introduce a new state for the SBTs. It's retasking. What would be that? Let's say after you have a PBI, a user story, and you break it down in some, let's say, 5 subtasks to implement SBTs, and you have 180 an acceptance test, let's say, but you can have more. And at the end of the sprint, you say, okay, I still can deliver 4 out of 5 functionalities. 1, I didn't have the time, I didn't know how to do it, but you speak with the customer and say, yes, I am happy with those 4. Maybe I will want this, maybe in the future it might say, okay, forget that function, I don't want it anymore, and retask that. But you say, then we can retask, everything is working. No. The rule we managed to introduce here, it was like that. At the end of the sprint, you should have under any PBI at least 1 SBT done, acceptance test 1 or whatever are passed, and then only, if possible, not done, just retasked tasks. And those retasked tasks will now become in the next sprint or sprints PBIs. Because if I was not able to do that task, probably it is something we have to investigate. So we put it as a story. Investigate, do whatever, implement, present solution, make risk analysis, whatever. And that becomes a PBI. Put the PBI in the backlog. They estimate a business value. We estimate an effort. Based on that, you have a return of investment. And in that list, because it is the sorted list, it will go somewhere. If the result that the action is here, probably it is approached in the future or never. If it is there, it will be approached in the first line. It's that simple. So actually the idea here that we'll be in a win-win-win situation. You are used to win-win situation because here we are 3 parts. We are at the very basic level where it's us, the developers, then you have your managers, and then you have the customers. And the idea is that the customers are getting high quality functionality. The managers are happy because they know exactly what they are tracking and they know how to commit their resources between projects and whatever, because I said we have to communicate. And we are also happy because we are, let's say, free. Remember, it's room for negotiation. We are free to develop whatever, not whatever we like, but the way we like with good quality. And avoid that kind of quick and dirty. Because in waterfall scenario, this happens, or happened. I also worked in a waterfall scenario. We have to do this. Hey, boss, I'm not interested in doing. Okay, let's do it. And I find a solution, put it there, quick and dirty. But this means technical depths. And you say, okay, it works. After a while, believe me, probably you already know, someone will have to pay those debts. And it will be us to pay them. So actually, it's about observing the changes to, I'll be very short, you know, there were those 3 questions that we have to ask in that daily stand-up meeting. It's what you did since our last daily stand-up meeting, what are the impediments that you face, and what we'll be doing until tomorrow, so the next stand-up meeting. What if you try as a Scrum Master to put another question? It will be a survey, and we are using this, and we are using it with success. By asking your team how confident you are that the team as a whole, not you as a part of the team, how confident are you that the team at the end of the sprint will reach its goals? And it will be, on our case, on a scale of 0 to 5. 0, I'm very sure we will not reach our objectives. 5, yes, we will do that. What I wanted, because you say, why are you doing this? The objectives were estimate how the team is responsive to retasking in our case, but should be responsive to whatever you are introducing there. To estimate the trust within the team, and also to estimate how confident the team it was in our PO, project owner support, because of retasking, because of work coming out. If you do not have a collaborative relation with your PO, then it's broken. And guess what? I wanted to do this, okay, you have to do it in the middle of the sprint, not very early, because you do not have an idea immediately after you make a planning of what's happening, and also not at the very end, because it's obvious for everyone if it's failing or not. So just in the middle, you may have an assumption, and then you'll see our, even we were at the very beginning, we had, one was asking, look, well, here was an example. Taking out, putting something. Good. Yeah. And the trust was very high. Don't wish you have 5 numbers. That's impossible. But stay above 3.5 and probably it's good. And the good news was every time that the team was very responsive, the trust within the team continues to increase. And when coming to retasking, it was very well supported by the PO and the team itself, and we reached an average of that survey to 4. So in conclusion, please accept the uncertainty. It's there. You cannot get rid of it. Then think of the fact that finish does not mean complete. So update every time the criteria based on better user story, invest. In our case, retask, maybe you'll also consider that. But remember, not only your team with the stakeholders, and do not forget the customer. Put the customer in the customer has also to understand the agility here. And last but not least, observe the changes in order to be adapted, because in what is happening in the past, you may discover patterns that will shape your future, so your action to be performed. Thank you very much, and if there are questions.